In the heat of the day, beneath the ancient oak trees of Mamre, a divine encounter unfolded, one that carried both the joy of promise and the weight of judgment. This is the story of Abraham, a faithful servant, a man God called friend. A man who stood in the gap between heaven's justice and a city's last chance for mercy. God visited Abraham at the oak trees of Mamre, accompanied by two other figures who appeared as men. Abraham, discerning that they were angels of God, ran to meet them and eagerly offered hospitality, water to wash their feet, a shaded place to rest, and a feast of freshly baked bread prepared by Sarah, along with tender meat, curds, and milk. During that divine visit, the Lord told Abraham that his wife, Sarah, would bear a son within the next year, even though she was very old. Overhearing this from inside the tent, Sarah laughed quietly to herself, thinking it impossible. She reasoned that both she and Abraham were far too old, and at her age, intimacy no longer held pleasure. Then the Lord asked Abraham, "Why did Sarah laugh and say, 'Can I really have a child when I am so old?' Is anything too hard for the Lord? As I said, 9 months from now I will return, and Sarah will have a son." Because Sarah was afraid, she denied laughing. "I didn't laugh," she said. "Yes, you did," he replied. Abraham was a man deeply loved by God. God had revealed himself to him in various forms. And he had made a covenant with Abraham, promising that his descendants would be as countless as the stars in the sky and that through him, a nation would be saved. After the prophecy of Isaac's birth, Abraham walked with his heavenly visitors to see them off. They stood on a high hill overlooking Sodom and Gomorrah. At that moment, God, knowing the mission he had entrusted to the angels, said to himself, "Abraham has been a faithful servant. It is only right that I reveal to him what I am about to do, for his descendants will become a great and mighty nation, and through him, all the nations of the earth will be blessed. I have chosen him so that he may instruct his children and household after him to obey me and to do what is right and just. If they follow my ways, I will fulfill all that I have promised him." So God shared his plan with Abraham, saying, "The outcry against Sodom and Gomorrah is so great and their sin so grievous, I will go down and see if what they have done is as bad as the outcry that has reached me." The Lord knew the people of Sodom were wicked. Many who had suffered from their cruelty and evil had cried out to God for justice, for healing, and for punishment upon their oppressors. In his mercy, God decided to give Sodom one final chance. That was why he sent his angels, more like a test. If the people of Sodom had welcomed them with kindness, they might have been saved or pardoned. But sadly, the opposite happened. Then the two angels turned and headed toward Sodom, while the Lord remained with Abraham. Then Abraham approached the Lord and asked from the depths of his heart, "Are you really going to destroy the innocent along with the guilty?" Now one might wonder, was Abraham speaking face to face with God? In truth, Abraham was speaking with God from his heart. And that is how God often speaks to us, clearly, within. We may not always hear an audible voice, but his presence in our hearts can be as real and personal as any conversation face to face. God speaks through the heart just as humans speak through the mouth. We hear him not just with our ears, but with our spirit. That is why Scripture says, "The heart is the temple of the Lord." Therefore, guard your heart diligently, for it is where God meets us. And from that sacred place, Abraham pleaded with the Lord, "If there are 50 innocent people in the city, will you really destroy it? Won't you spare the whole place for the sake of those 50? Surely, you won't kill the innocent along with the guilty. That's unthinkable. The judge of all the earth must act justly." And the Lord answered, "If I find 50 righteous people in Sodom, I will spare the entire city for their sake." Encouraged, Abraham spoke again, "Please forgive my boldness, Lord. No, I am just dust and ashes, but what if there are only 45? The Lord replied, "I will not destroy it if I find 45. Abraham continued, "What if there are only 40? God answered, "I will not destroy it for the sake of 40. Then Abraham said, "Please don't be angry, Lord, but may I speak again? Suppose there are only 30? And God said, "I will not do it if I find 30 there." Abraham spoke once more, "I have dared to speak to you, Lord. What if there are only 20? God answered, for the sake of 20, I will not destroy the city." Finally, Abraham said, "Lord, please don't be angry, and I will speak just once more. What if only 10 righteous people are found there?" And the Lord answered, "If I find 10, I will not destroy it." When the conversation ended, the Lord departed, and Abraham returned home, his heart heavy, but hopeful. The 2 angels arrived at the entrance of Sodom. There they found Lot sitting at the city gate, a place where leaders and elders gathered. His presence there suggested that Lot had a recognized role in Sodom. Though the city was filled with wickedness, Lot immediately recognized the strangers and sensed their importance. Rising swiftly, he bowed with his face to the ground and said, "My lords, please come to your servant's house. You can wash your feet, spend the night, and go on your way early in the morning." At first, the angels refused. "No, we will spend the night in the town square." But Lot insisted, strongly. He knew the evil that prowled the streets of Sodom once night fell. Finally, they agreed and followed him home. Lot prepared a meal for them, baking unleavened bread, and they ate. Before the visitors could lie down to rest, the men of Sodom, young and old, from every part of the city, gathered and surrounded Lot's house. They banged on the door and shouted, "Where are the men who came to you tonight? Bring them out so we can have sex with them." Lot was horrified. He stepped outside quickly and shut the door behind him, trying to reason with them. "Please, my friends, don't do such a wicked thing," he pleaded. In a desperate and troubling attempt to protect his guests, Lot made a shocking offer. "Look, I have 2 daughters who have never slept with a man. Let me bring them out to you, and you can do what you like with them. But do nothing to these men, for they have come under the protection of my roof." Hospitality in those days was sacred. In Lot's time, a man would rather give up everything, even his own family, than allow harm to come to a guest. While Lot's offer was deeply flawed and troubling, it reflected the weight of honor tied to hosting. To break that bond was to bring shame upon oneself. Lot knew what Sodom was capable of. He had lived there long enough to understand that strangers were not safe. He offered refuge to the angels, not fully knowing who they were, but determined to protect them from the evil of the city. But the mob would not listen. They became furious and pressed harder. "Get out of the way," they shouted. "This fellow came here as a foreigner, and now he wants to play the judge. We'll treat you worse than them." They surged forward, trying to break the door down. At that moment, the 2 angels reached out, pulled Lot back inside, and shut the door. Then, they struck the men outside with blindness, so they groped around in confusion, unable to find the entrance. The angels had seen enough. The wickedness of Sodom had reached its peak, and there was no more room for mercy. This is why the Lord instructs us to treat all people with kindness and dignity. We never know when we may be speaking to an angel. So be careful how you treat strangers, the overlooked, and the rejected, because in dishonoring them, you might be dishonoring heaven itself. Then the angels turned to Lot and gave a final warning. "Do you have anyone else here, sons-in-law, sons, daughters, or anyone else who belongs to you in this city? Get them out, because we are going to destroy this place." The outcry to the Lord against its people is so great that he has sent us to destroy it. Lot rushed out to find his sons-in-law. The men pledged to marry his daughters. He pleaded with them, "Quick! Get out of this place. The Lord is about to destroy the city." But they laughed. They thought he was joking, and they stayed behind. At dawn, the angels urged Lot, saying, "Hurry, take your wife and your 2 daughters who are here, or you will be swept away when the city is punished." But Lot hesitated. Fear and uncertainty made him linger. In the Lord's mercy, the angels grasped his hand, his wife's hand, and the hands of his 2 daughters, leading them safely out of the city. Once outside, one of the angels commanded, "Flee for your lives. Don't look back, and don't stop anywhere in the plain. Escape to the mountains or you will be swept away." Lot, overwhelmed and afraid, pleaded, "No, my Lord, please. Your servant has found favor in your eyes. But I cannot flee to the mountains. Disaster will overtake me, and I'll die. Look, there is a small town nearby, let me flee there." The angel replied, "Very well, I will grant this request too. I will not destroy the town you speak of, but flee there quickly, for I can do nothing until you reach it. And so the town was called Zor, meaning small. As soon as Lot and his daughters reached Zor, the Lord rained down burning sulfur, fire and brimstone, from the heavens upon Sodom and Gomorrah. The entire plain, the cities, the people, the vegetation, everything, was wiped out, but Lot's wife looked back. She disobeyed the command, turning her eyes to the life she was leaving behind. And in that moment, she became a pillar of salt, frozen in time, stuck in the past. How often do we do the same? God shows us the way forward, opens a door, gives us a chance at freedom, but we turn around. We long for what once was, even if it was destroying us. Lot's wife had a future, but her heart was still in the past, and so she never saw what God had prepared ahead. We hear God's voice nudging us, warning us, guiding us, but we delay, we rationalize, we look back. Don't look back. Don't get stuck in what God is trying to bring you out of. Your future is ahead, not behind. Even in your hardest moment, God is speaking, through people, through circumstances, through silence. He is always speaking. Listen, obey, and don't look back. Early the next morning, Abraham returned to the place where he had stood before the Lord. He looked down toward Sodom and Gomorrah and the whole plain, and saw thick smoke rising from the land, like smoke from a great furnace. God remembered Abraham's intercession, and for his sake, Lot was spared. But Lot, still afraid even in Zor, took his 2 daughters and fled to the mountains after the destruction of Sodom, seeking refuge in the solitude of a cave. The story of Lot is not just about destruction, it's about mercy, obedience, and trust. It reminds us that delayed obedience can be dangerous, and looking back can cost us everything. God is always trying to lead us into something better, but we must be willing to let go of what He's asking us to leave behind. Lot was saved not because he was perfect, but because God is merciful. His wife was lost not because she didn't love her family, but because she couldn't let go of the past. So ask yourself today, what is God calling you to leave behind? What are you still looking back at that He's already freed you from? Are you lingering when you should be running? May we all learn to trust God enough to move forward, even when it's uncomfortable. Because what's ahead with God is always greater than what's behind us. Don't look back. Keep moving, and above all, pay attention. God is always speaking. So, what's the lesson here? Don't look back. Don't hold on to what God has already told you to leave behind. Lot's wife looked back, and she missed her future. What are you still holding on to? God is always speaking. In your silence, in your chaos, in your pain. Pay attention. Trust Him. Thank you for watching. If this story touched you, don't forget to like, share, and drop a comment. I'd love to hear your thoughts. And of course, subscribe or follow for more powerful stories and lessons that bring life to the Word. Until next time, keep your heart open, and your eyes forward.